Hello everyone! It's Camila here sharing my journey with you. I come from a modest background, far from the world of luxury. On the other hand, my husband Jackson had a vastly different upbringing. Born into wealth thanks to his parents' substantial inheritances, he was not only smart but also entrepreneurial, eventually starting his own successful company. While I found success in a high-ranking job, my roots remained firmly in the middle class. This wasn't an issue for anyone except for my mother-in-law, Addison. Dealing with Addison was like navigating a storm. In contrast, Jackson's father, Grayson, was an absolute gem. Addison, however, seemed to take pleasure in belittling me and my family's socioeconomic status, constantly criticizing us both in private and public settings. Jackson always defended me, but Addison's insults never ceased. The situation got so bad that I considered leaving Jackson, fearing what my future with his family might look like. Thankfully, Jackson's unwavering love and support convinced me to stay. He was truly wonderful, entirely unlike his mother. Over time, I learned to cope with Addison's antics. So, when she turned up with an ostentatious wedding dress for our wedding, shortly after we booked the venue, her behavior didn't shock me. She flaunted the dress, eagerly asking us what we thought. "Isn't it incredible? It's from the upscale bridal shop you couldn't afford, given your wedding budget," she remarked, not hiding her disdain. When I pointed out that her dress was indeed a bridal gown and inappropriate for the occasion, she glared at me, visibly upset. At that moment, I felt utterly out of place, unsure of how to deal with her extravagant display, especially since Jackson and I were planning a modest wedding with just 60 guests to keep expenses low. We didn't want to splurge on our wedding, so I picked out a modestly priced, simple wedding gown that fit our budget. However, Addison's choice of attire was extravagantly over the top. Her dress was so lavish it would undoubtedly make her the center of attention, overshadowing me at my own wedding. It was clear she had chosen the dress deliberately, fully aware of its impact. When I gently suggested she choose a different outfit, Addison erupted in anger. "How dare you dictate my wardrobe? I spent $125,000 on this dress. Do you really think I'd let it go to waste? I'm wearing it, no questions asked." Jackson tried to intervene, pointing out, "Mom, you need to listen to Camila. That dress isn't suitable for our intimate wedding. Please, choose something more appropriate." But Addison wouldn't budge. "Absolutely not, Jackson. I adore this dress. I won't settle for a random dress like your wife. I have my standards. As the mother of the groom, it's my big day too," she claimed, ignoring the absurdity of her statement. Jackson, taken aback, countered, "Addison, it's not your big day. Please, stop seeking all the attention for once. You're not wearing that dress to our wedding." The dispute escalated quickly. Addison was stubborn about wearing the dress, leading to a fierce argument between her, Jackson, and Grayson. The tension became so unbearable that we had to leave early, leaving the issue unresolved. Jackson was at his wit's end, lamenting, "I can't believe my mom would go this far. She's being unreasonable. I'm starting to think she shouldn't even be at the wedding." But banning Addison from the wedding seemed like it would only cause more drama. If we uninvite her, she'll cause an even bigger scene. We can't trust her promise not to wear the dress. She does whatever she pleases. We need a more thoughtful solution, I suggested, pondering the consequences of excluding her from such a significant event. Jackson expressed his frustration, acknowledging how his mother had mistreated my family and me over the years. "I'm tired of her insults and disrespect. It has to end. She can't ruin our wedding day." So we found ourselves in agreement. We needed to devise a strategy. A strategy that would prevent Addison from disrupting our wedding, yet not arouse her suspicions or anger unnecessarily. As the days went by, Addison remained adamant about her decision, leaving us to carefully plan our next move to ensure our wedding day remained a celebration of our love, not a showcase for her extravagance. We reached a point where it was crystal clear that a thoughtful strategy was necessary to handle the situation. So, Jackson, Grayson, and I gathered to craft a plan. exhausted by her disruptive antics and unanimous in our wish to not have her dominate our wedding, we engaged in thorough discussions. Eventually, we devised a plan and discreetly began to implement it, careful to keep Addison in the dark. We stopped discussing the dress with her altogether and shared only minimal details about the wedding logistics, which didn't bother her much as she was too caught up in trying to outdo me. Just a few days before the wedding, during a family dinner at my in-laws, Addison couldn't hide her excitement. "Oh, I'm so looking forward to your wedding, Jackson. I've been dreaming about it. My gown and jewelry are all ready to dazzle. It's going to be a memorable day." Her anticipation was evident, though it was clear she was most excited about showcasing herself. "It will indeed be a memorable day, especially because I get to marry Camila," Jackson responded, subtly trying to shift the focus back to us, the actual reason for the celebration. Addison, however, quickly turned the conversation back to herself. "Sure, Camila will look nice, but next to me in my expensive dress? I doubt it. After all, I spent a small fortune to ensure I stand out. Unlike Camila's dress, mine will truly shine." Hearing this, I couldn't help but marvel at Addison's brazen attitude, insisting on her superiority and planning to outshine the bride on her wedding day. Jackson complimented Addison's dress to keep the peace, while I silently appreciated his support, squeezing his hand under the table. Grayson, ever the peacemaker and insightful father-in-law, played a crucial role in our plan. He gently chided Addison, highlighting the absurdity of her making such elaborate plans for a wedding that wasn't hers. "Wow, Addison, you've certainly gone all out for a celebration that's not even about you. Shouldn't the focus be on the couple getting married?" His comment was a subtle reminder of the day's true significance, steering the conversation away from Addison's self-centered plans without igniting further conflict. This strategic move was a key part of our effort to manage the situation gracefully, ensuring the wedding remained a joyous occasion for us and our guests, not a showcase for Addison's vanity. As the wedding day approached, Addison was adamant about her appearance, stating she would only be satisfied with the most elite makeup artists attending to her. "I need the very best for my son's big day. After all, I'm the mother of the groom," she declared. She was determined not to mix with guests she considered beneath her, especially while wearing her lavish jewelry, fearing theft due to their unfamiliarity with such luxury. Grayson cleverly suggested, "Why not prepare at home? It's the safest and most comfortable option for you, especially with all the plans you have." Grateful for the suggestion, Addison reveled in the idea of arriving at the venue separately, envisioning her grand entrance as something out of a dream. "That sounds wonderful, Grayson. What a thoughtful plan," she beamed, unaware of the underlying strategy at play. Grayson exchanged a knowing glance with us, signaling that our plan was working perfectly. Addison, caught up in the thrill of her own preparations, didn't realize she was falling right into our carefully laid trap. The thought of her surprise on the wedding day brought a quiet joy to Jackson and me, even though I regretted not being able to see her reaction firsthand. With the plan securely in place, I could finally focus on the excitement of the wedding, feeling a weight lift off my shoulders. While there was a hint of anxiety about the plan being discovered, Jackson and our supportive circle of friends helped keep those worries at bay. Everything was arranged flawlessly, rekindling my enthusiasm for our special day after months of stress. For the first time in a long while, I felt genuinely exhilarated about our wedding. The day was shaping up to be a celebration of our love, not overshadowed by any external drama. And as the wedding morning dawned bright and beautiful, it symbolized the new beginning we had been eagerly anticipating. The wedding day was blessed with beautiful weather, adding to the joy of the occasion. Grayson, my incredible father-in-law, arrived at the venue early, well ahead of the rest of us. He popped by to check on me, and despite my nerves, he reassured me that everything was proceeding as planned. "Don't worry, dear," he said, explaining his early departure was due to Addison's unbearable behavior. "Her makeup artist won't be here for another hour. We have plenty of time." I was immensely grateful for Grayson's support. "Thank you so much, Grayson. I can't express how much this means to me," I told him. He smiled, reminding me that I was now part of the family and promising that the day would unfold exactly as we envisioned. His presence was a blessing, especially considering the challenge of having Addison as my mother-in-law. I felt fortunate to have Grayson on my side. After visiting me, Grayson checked on Jackson, and I began preparing for the ceremony. The day was turning out to be everything I dreamed of. I will never forget Jackson's look of love as I walked towards him, escorted by my uncle. Both of us were moved to tears by the moment, surrounded by our closest friends and family, including Grayson's supportive presence. As for Addison, her entrance did not go as she had imagined. Dressed extravagantly in her costly gown and adorned with diamonds, she expected to be the center of attention. However, upon arriving at the venue, she was met with an unexpected surprise: an empty venue. Confused and slightly panicked, she called Jackson, her voice revealing her disbelief. "Jackson, what's happening? Why is there no one here?" she inquired, clearly not prepared for the turn of events that awaited her. Addison frantically tried to locate us at the venue. Bewildered by the absence of any familiar faces, Jackson delivered the unexpected news: she wasn't at the correct location because she hadn't been invited to the actual wedding. Confusion turned into disbelief in her voice, prompting a mix of laughter and bemusement from our side. Even Grayson struggled to maintain his composure, amused by the situation. When Addison pressed for clarity, insisting she was speaking to Jackson and not me, her confusion only deepened. Jackson calmly explained that while the venue she was at had initially been booked, we had opted for a different location for our ceremony. The revelation that the wedding had already taken place without her left Addison in shock, questioning why she hadn't been informed sooner. Jackson, losing patience, pointed out that her exclusion was deliberate, a decision made to avoid the disruptions her presence would likely cause. Despite his clear explanation, Addison found it inconceivable that her own son would go to such lengths to keep her away from his wedding. The conversation escalated as Jackson confronted her about the unnecessary drama surrounding her dress and her attempts to overshadow the bride. His firm stance shocked Addison, who struggled to accept that her actions had consequences. Jackson's assertion that the day belonged to him and his wife, not to her, marked a definitive end to the dispute, underscoring the importance of the occasion for the couple over any individual's desire for attention. Jackson made it clear that he was no longer willing to tolerate Addison's disruptive behavior, emphasizing that the wedding day belonged to him and his wife, not to anyone else. After delivering this message, he hung up the phone, though Addison continued to try reaching him and even called Grayson several times. Despite her attempts, we proceeded to celebrate our reception surrounded by loved ones, undisturbed by the unfolding drama. During a brief moment alone, I noticed a call from Addison on my phone. Bracing myself, I answered, only to be met with accusations and insults. She blamed me for her exclusion from the wedding, alleging I had manipulated her son and labeled me a gold digger envious of her potential to outshine me on my own wedding day. I countered her claims with calm facts, pointing out that Jackson makes his own decisions based on what he believes is right, and that his choice to exclude her was his own, though I did not dissuade him. Addison, undeterred, threatened to crash the reception, claiming she was already outside. I dismissed her threats with a mix of disbelief and indifference, assuring her she would find no support here. Upon returning to the reception, I prepared for whatever scene might ensue. As predicted, Addison's attempt to enter the venue escalated dramatically. Dressed in her opulent gown and denied entry by security, she became the embodiment of frustration and entitlement, her actions bordering on the absurd. This spectacle, rather than garnering sympathy, only served to validate our decision to keep her away from our celebration. The guests, aware of the situation, were unified in their support for us, leaving no room for Addison's theatrics to disrupt our special day. Her attempt to overshadow the event ended not with triumph, but with a public display of her own making, a stark contrast to the joy and unity inside. The disturbance Addison caused outside the venue quickly captured the attention of our guests, prompting everyone to see the source of the uproar. When Jackson encountered his mother making a scene, his frustration boiled over. He confronted her, dismayed by her refusal to respect his wishes and her insistence on shifting the blame to his wife. "Mom, what on earth are you doing here? I explicitly told you that you weren't invited. Why can't you grasp that simple fact?" Jackson's patience wore thin as Addison played the victim, accusing him of being manipulated by his wife, whom she labeled as jealous. "Mom, listen to yourself. My wife isn't the issue here. It's you trying to overshadow her with that extravagant dress and jewelry. You knew she had a modest budget. Your actions were intended to belittle her," Jackson retorted, trying to make her see the selfishness of her behavior. Addison, desperate for support, turned to Grayson, hoping he'd defend her actions. But Grayson, equally appalled by her behavior, stood by Jackson. "That's not just any dress, Addison. It's essentially a bridal gown. How can you not see the inappropriateness of your actions? Look around, no one supports your stance," Grayson pointed out, his disappointment evident. Addison's attempt to justify her choice by disparaging Camila's family and guests only intensified the situation. "They don't understand because they come from a different background," she argued, clinging to her misguided beliefs about maintaining her so-called class. Grayson, however, reached his limit. "Enough, Addison! I will not allow you to insult my daughter-in-law and her family any further." "You've gone too far this time," he declared, standing firm against her baseless accusations and entitlement. The conflict laid bare the stark contrast between Addison's self-centeredness and the united front presented by Jackson, Grayson, and the supportive guests. Her attempt to gatecrash, far from garnering sympathy, only solidified her isolation and underscored the wisdom of her exclusion from the ceremony. Grayson's firm stance against Addison in defense of my family was a profound moment for me, highlighting the depth of support and love I had found within Jackson's family, excluding the tumultuous presence of his mother. This gesture of solidarity, declaring me as part of the family, was incredibly moving, bringing me to the brink of tears. It reinforced my belief that aligning my life with Jackson and his family, apart from Addison, was one of the best decisions I'd ever made. Addison, shocked and incensed by Grayson's rebuke, couldn't comprehend how her husband could raise his voice against her, especially to defend what she saw as outsiders. She clung to her notions of superiority, criticizing the wedding and, by extension, our union. But Grayson's response was unexpected and definitive. He expressed regret not for our wedding, but for his own with Addison, denouncing their marriage as a mistake due to her unbearable behavior. He then declared his intention to divorce her, a statement that stunned Addison into silence. Grayson wasn't alone in his resolve. Jackson, too, announced a severance of ties with his mother, prioritizing the well-being of his wife and their life together over the toxic influence of Addison. This decision underscored a commitment to protect our new family from further turmoil. Addison's reaction was one of shock and disbelief. Her reliance on Grayson and Jackson for financial support had been a cornerstone of her extravagant lifestyle. Grayson's mention of divorce, coupled with the prenuptial agreements in place, meant that Addison stood to lose not just her family, but also the financial security she had taken for granted. Her lavish spending, exemplified by the purchase of the exorbitantly priced dress, had been unsustainable on her own, relying instead on the wealth of her husband. The revelation of impending divorce and the decision for Jackson and me to cut contact with Addison marked a turning point. For Addison, the consequences extended beyond the loss of family ties to a stark financial reality. Her future, once cushioned by wealth and status, was now uncertain, with the protective financial clauses of prenuptial agreements leaving her with little to claim. This dramatic shift in her circumstances served as a stark reminder of the costs associated with her actions and attitudes, and emphasizing the transformative impact of Grayson and Jackson's decisions on our collective future. Jackson, Grayson, and I had thoroughly discussed the situation with Addison, understanding the necessity of setting boundaries to protect our newly formed family unit. Grayson had been contemplating a separation from Addison due to prolonged unhappiness, while Jackson and I were united in our desire to shield our relationship from her toxic influence. Addison, blindsided by the realization that her actions had real consequences, was left to grapple with the fallout publicly. Her pleas for leniency, framed as an overreaction to a mere dress, were met with steadfast rebukes. It was clear to everyone, especially Jackson and Grayson, that her behavior extended far beyond any single incident. They highlighted her consistent mistreatment of me as the root issue, dismissing her claims of unfairness as entirely meritless. In a desperate bid for sympathy, Addison turned to me, tearfully imploring for forgiveness. She clung to me, portraying herself as a remorseful figure wronged by circumstances, yet her plea lacked genuine contrition. Her appeal quickly soured, revealing her true colors once again as she reverted to calling me names and accusing me of tearing her family apart. Her sudden shift from feigned repentance to outright hostility only served to reinforce the decision to distance ourselves from her. Her inability to offer a sincere apology or to recognize the impact of her actions alienated her further, not just from me, but from everyone present. The guest's demeanor, initially one of passive observation, grew increasingly disapproving as Addison's true nature surfaced once again. This spectacle underscored a pivotal moment for our family. It wasn't merely about excluding Addison. It was about affirming our commitment to respect, unity, and the well-being of our collective future. Addison's failed attempt at reconciliation, marred by her swift return to accusatory and manipulative tactics, only cemented our resolve. The path forward was clear, marked by a collective stand against toxicity and a shared dedication to fostering a supportive and loving environment, free from the shadows of past grievances. Jackson didn't hesitate. Without giving Addison a chance to retaliate, he directed the security to escort her out. Amidst this, both sides of the family and our friends didn't hold back their opinions, openly criticizing her for her behavior. It was a moment of vindication as we watched her being led away, allowing us to return to our celebration, surrounded by those who genuinely supported us. The very next day, Grayson took decisive action. He returned home only to instruct Addison to vacate their shared residence and had his lawyer present her with divorce papers. Her attempts to sway Grayson with a display of tears, screams, and threats, all in the lawyer's presence, were futile. When she tried approaching us, hoping to find an ally or perhaps a way to intrude into our peace, we simply chose not to engage, ensuring our new life together remained untouched by her drama. Our phones and social media became Addison-free zones, cutting off any potential for her to reach out. As for Addison's fate, it was as swift as it was just. The divorce left her financially strained, her attempts at manipulation failing to secure her any advantage. Her pleas for assistance went unanswered, leaving her to face the consequences of her actions alone. Ultimately, she returned to her hometown, her name now a currency she hoped could salvage her situation, seeking employment and perhaps a fresh start. This turn of events led to a profound sense of relief and closure for us. Our lives, now free from Addison's tumultuous influence, flourished. The hope is that she finds a path forward that does not cross with ours again, allowing us all to move on from this chapter without further discord.